Welcome to the Casual Podcast with your boy Brian, the Casual Brian. The Casual Podcast is brought to you by the Casual Brand. Casual Brand, look us up. We're here for you to casually connect you to one another. So, a lot to get to today. Ugh, seems like my GERD is acting up. I think it's GERD. I don't know. It's like I have like this acid reflux situation that happens every now and then. And I think what happens is if I take like medicine or anything that dissolves, and then I lay down, or in this case, I did my morning routine, which is yoga. It can come back and like settle here, and then it's just like it feels like I swallowed a bad pill. Anyway, we're gonna try to push through. Um, it's just a very uncomfortable feeling, though. It's like right here, and it's like kind of sharp and stabbing. Anyway, we're gonna do our best to push through. I might have to take a break. Hopefully, the water will be enough. But yeah, so couple things I want to talk about today. Um, Namely, the first thing I really want to talk about was yesterday. I watched a good amount of the Fauci. It's not like the Fauci trials. It always feels like the Fauci trials, but it's not the Fauci trials. It's the all the people that are in charge of the government's response to COVID. But then it somehow always dissolves into this personal attack against Dr. Fauci. Now, I don't really understand this whole beef with Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci has been working in government for years, Republican, Democrat, I mean, for years. And no one's ever had an issue with him before. It's just kind of like the thing about COVID that's so tricky, man. It's just that no one's had issues with a lot of these things before. We've had vaccine mandates. We have vaccine mandates. Never an issue. Um, just it's not. I guess the big issue is that how do you perceive the pandemic? If you perceive the pandemic as a pandemic, or that's not fair. If you think the pandemic is a serious issue that needs to be addressed seriously, then nothing we have done is that drastic, with the exception of the very beginning where we closed down for I don't know how long we were supposed to be closed down for. Like, was it 2 weeks? 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Then it was longer. I don't know. So aside from that, everything else, in my opinion, has been reasonable. Even like with Omicron right now, where we can all agree that Omicron presents itself as less severe than the other strands, the other variants. Definitely Delta. Definitely less severe than Delta. It still overruns everything. So everything gets shut down, everything is slowed down, hospitals are becoming overrun. And I saw on the news, um, like nobody was on a ventilator in California, which is great. That's all great. I'm super happy to hear that Omicron is not that bad, because I've also heard recently that it's looking like everyone's going to get it, and it's kind of unavoidable. And the only real difference is just going to be the experience you have. So if that's the case, well, I'm very happy to hear that it's not as bad. Because here's the bottom line. And this is my opinion. This is just my opinion. If you feel differently, that's totally fine. But I feel like we can't not live. We can't we can't just stay at home. That's not going to work. Now, to say that we can't, it always goes back to this for me. To say that we can't avoid all risk doesn't mean that we should take great risk, or significant risk. So, and I'll get back to Fauci, but like, for example, this is how I think through things. I go to jujitsu, no mask, unavoidable, but everybody there is vaccinated. Everybody there seems to be doing a good job of monitoring themselves, and we're all approaching it as we're going to be looking out for each other. We all want to train, can't really train with a mask on, but we're all vaccinated. We're all, you know, If we're feeling sick, we stay home. We keep everybody updated. No silent, like, you know what I mean? Like, no one's getting sick and not telling people. We're all making sure that we all know. And so I feel comfortable. I trust those people. They've gained my trust at Marcelo's, and so I trust them. And so I go there, I wear a mask, I train, and I put my mask right back on. Now, depending on how the situation is, I'm not going to feel that comfort for everything. One, if everybody there is not vaccinated, that's going to make me feel less comfortable. Two, if I know that people don't want to wear masks or are not wearing masks. See, like, the thing about it for me is, like, I wear my mask except where I can't. Now, I could either avoid jujitsu altogether, or I could just take my mask off the train. It's, to me, it's similar to a restaurant. You know what I mean? We take our mask off to eat. When we get up, we go back around. And then it's like another thing that I think. Well, you're definitely in the space. Anyway, so I I I think that it really goes down to how you feel, what makes you feel comfortable. For me, being around mixed crowds makes me start feeling less comfortable, and definitely being around people that I know do not take it serious. So that makes me less comfortable because I know that you're probably not likely to go around and follow guidelines. You know, if if I go to Marcelo and I contracted Omicron, it would be unfortunate. I wouldn't want it, but at least I know that we all did what we could to try to, you know, live with this thing. But if I was around somebody that I knew was not handling themselves in a way that I like, and I ended up getting it, I would be upset. And you might say, "Well, that's not fair." Well, I don't care what you think is fair, because it's for me. It's how I choose to live. This isn't for me. I'm not telling anyone else to go by these guidelines. I'm not saying that this is the wrong or right way to do it. I'm just simply saying, for me, if I if you want me to be around, for me, I need to know that you're taking this thing seriously. And if you're not, then, looks like we're going to be coming out of this around probably mid-February. Numbers are going to be down again, and then we can go back to, like, business as usual. I just I think what we're really messing up is this all or nothing approach, you know? And not having the flexibility to say, okay, if things are better, it should be reflected in how we're living. And if things are worse, that should be reflected too. We shouldn't just keep trying to pretend like this thing isn't here. We have to make adjustments. We are so not flexible. It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. You know, if there's a disease spreading rapidly through the country, then we need to make adjustments. You know, I'm thankful that they let the gym stay open. I think gyms are important. I think being healthy is important. Anyway, so getting back to Fauci, and it's not, again, it's not Fauci. It's not like Fauci's on trial. These are just people. The Republicans have just decided that if we attack Fauci, it's going to rile our base, which makes no sense. It makes no sense. If you don't agree with the guy, don't listen to him, which is essentially what you're doing, right? So why hate him? He's not. He's not the one that makes the mandates. The way the Republicans are doing politics now, and there are times when it's everybody, but right now it's the Republicans. Their playbook is to find a boogeyman and then just stay on that. Find a talking point and just stay on it. You know, that's how you got Florida. DeSantis, state completely out of control, hospitalizations up, everything's up, and he's talking about we're free. You know, he made that whole big deal. We're not putting masks on our kids. We want to see our children smile. Well, that's great. That's cute. But now you have a high level of children in the hospital with COVID. They're not smiling now, DeSantis, you know? And maybe your kid won't get really sick, but maybe the next kid that your kid gives it to or help spread it, gets really sick. And now that parent has to go to the hospital and hope that their kid just gets somewhat sick and will get better. Yeah. I'm over this whole like anti-Fauci, anti-science, anti-doctors. It's like do whatever you're going to do and just keep it like that. Like I don't ever you'll never catch me talking about like the lady who was popular at the beginning. The lady from Africa who was like there's a cure for COVID, which there is clearly not a cure for COVID. And I don't care about that lady. I don't care what she says. It doesn't matter to me one bit. I'm not going to talk to somebody. I'm not going to try to discredit her. I don't care. I don't care about any of these people talking about all this and this for COVID. No, I don't care about that. I'm going to follow what I believe and keep it like that. Keep it at that. I think that the CDC is at times confusing, and that's fine. But what they're saying is right. Makes sense to me, makes logical sense, and all the arguments I've heard against it make no sense to me. That's how I'm going by it. So CDC says if I'm around vaccinated people, I can take my mask off. This is a thing that a lot of people mess up on. They like they they think that so the CDC says if you're vaccinated and around vaccinated people, you can take your mask off, right? But then they don't realize that if you let one unvaccinated person into that crowd, into that group, the dynamic of that group is unvaccinated. You can't, it doesn't matter if it's just 1 or 10, one unvaccinated person changes the dynamic of your group, which is why we have vaccine mandates in New York. So, one thing that people could tighten up, it almost feels like pointless to talk about tightening up right now because we're just going through it. We're just going through the storm, There's no way around it. You just got to go through it. And so, yeah, I'm just over the Fauci stuff. I think it's just disrespectful. I think it's political theater and just poor political theater. You know what I mean? Like they don't even let him answer the questions. And then some of the stuff is so leading. Not some of the stuff. All of it is so leading. There's no question being asked. It's so deceitful. And I'm just thinking, what's the point of this? What is the point of this? Why do we waste their time every year or however many times they do it? If they were really going to talk about what we could be doing better, what is working, what is not working, what needs to be fixed, that's okay. But that's not what it is. It just turns out to be a gotcha session for Dr. Fauci, and then afterwards they go and they try to raise money. Why are we paying politicians on the side of paying them? They already have a salary. The whole political system is just really it's just so tough, man. They get in, they have maybe a year where they actually do something. Most of the time it's just talk. And then they immediately start running again. It's just like I don't understand. Put term limits in. You put term limits in, you cut down on some of the corruption. And how long is up to you, I think. I don't know why it's different than the president. I don't know why we have lifelong politicians. That doesn't make sense to me. Come, serve, and then find another way to be useful to the community. So anyway, moving on to Djokovic. I am not a fan. I let me say it like by saying this. It's not that I was a big fan before. I haven't really been a fan of tennis since Federer started to fall off. But Djokovic is not it, my guy. I am just not a fan of that guy. He just seems so sleazy. It's like, and it's like, man, can you? I don't know. Another, it always just keeps coming back to COVID. Another issue I seem to have, I have, is that there's just this sense that things don't apply to me. Rules don't apply to me. I don't care how things affect other people. I'm gonna do me, and that's the most important thing to me. I want to do me, And if you ain't trying to be about me doing me, then step aside. I'm just like, bro, can you not? I hope they don't let them play. And again, I don't care if people say mandates or no mandates. I don't care at all. I think that mandates can help, but it's hard to say because so many people don't enforce them. Every day on the train, there's always people without their mask on. Every day in the grocery store, there's always somebody without their mask on. Um, in bars, people don't wear their mask because they're, we're vaccinated, so it's supposed to be like this thing. I don't know what that means, but yeah, if I'm being real, if I'm being honest, I don't, I don't, I don't know how effective mandates are. That being said, if you want to mandate, whatever the rules are, that's the rules. That's what it is. And the rules are you have to be vaccinated to enter the country. And because he had COVID twice, he applied for an exemption. And so the people, the what is it, Australian Open, they wanted him in. Of course they want him in. He's if not one of their biggest stars, their biggest star. Of course they want him in. You want Jordan in, you want LeBron in. That being said, I don't like rules that are not equally distributed. I will never support rules being unfairly distributed. Don't tell me that you're going to fire a police officer in New York and then let Joe Rogan come in and do comedy or do the UFC. No, doesn't work for me. Don't suspend AB and then let Aaron Rodgers do whatever he wants because he's having a all-star season. That's what I'm just like, make it fair, make it even. That's all you got to do. Why is it so hard to make things fair and even? Because everyone realizes the truth about fair and even. Equality, the truth about equality. My dad has a good saying about equality, and it really gets to the heart, whether people know this consciously or subconsciously. Equality cost. Because if two people are not equal and the inequality came at the cost of another person, as they've moved down, this person has moved up off the back of this person. So for you to get back to zero, we're not, and a lot of people feel like minorities and women and all and whatever class you want to pick, they're getting an advantage because they're seeing themselves come down and they're seeing the other groups come up. But the reality is we're just trying to get back to zero. Zero meaning equal opportunity to get the same things, to get a house, to get an education, to get a job. That's what we're going for. That's what we're hoping for. And some people would argue, well, you already have that. You don't have that right now. We don't have that right now. There is a big difference in the opportunity and the ability to get wealth. I mean, just think about that. And some of the stuff is so difficult because it happened so long ago, excuse me, that how do you really fix it? Like Black Wall Street, for example, that land would have generated wealth for generations. You know what I mean? It's like, imagine if somebody would have stolen uh, JP Morgan and Chase or stolen Hilton, just another company another group of people came over, took over the Hilton um, hotels, and now instead of the Hiltons being the ones that are rich, it's the Williams. That's 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 a real issue in our country. There's a lot of people who've made wealth that stole that land, that stole that those buildings, those resources. A lot of land currently is built on land that was supposedly for Native and African Americans. So it's tough. It's tough. We're not living in equal in an equal society. Now, what we are living in is a more conscious society that is not as tolerating to blatant racism. You can't be blatantly racist anymore. You can't you can't say the N word to somebody walking down the street. That's not going to be tolerated. But what you can do is you can say, well, you know how those people are. I mean, it gets really deep. But is this country a better place to live in? It depends. It depends, you know, because yeah, blatant racism is not a thing, but there are systems that keep. The thing about the United States is it was built to profit one group of people. It was never meant to profit natives. It was never meant to profit the African Americans. It was never even meant to profit women, really, except for vicariously through their, not vicariously, but like through their partner. And so we keep trying to adjust this system, but the system's going to keep doing what it was designed to do, and that's make a wonderful life for white men. Right, right. What is it? Protestant, WASP, WASP. What are WASP? White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. So, and I mean, I think everyone's doing their. No, not everyone. I think the majority of people in our country are doing our best to move forward, but it's difficult. It's difficult because equality costs. Who wants to give up something so that others can have? Everyone thinks that they worked hard for what they got. Almost no one thinks that they were given anything. I worked for this. Yeah, you did, but you had a starting place. I had a starting place. I can't look at anybody in my family and think, well, you should just work like me. I had a good starting place, a better starting place than my parents did, and my parents had a better starting place than their parents. That's the goal. But how far my grandmother, not only did she pick cotton, but she was not allowed to go to school past the 8th grade. Once you get into 8th grade, then you have to pay for your own books if you were African American because they would rather you be working in the fields. That impacts me because that's where I'm starting from. So unless you can look at me and say you have a relative that was not allowed to go to school past 8th grade unless they paid for it and was working in the cotton fields, then we're not on the same level. That being said, with all that considered, because of the work of my grandfather, my grandparents, and my parents, I had a good starting place. Could it have been better? Sure, but it was really good, better than a lot of people in this country, better than most of the people in my family. It still doesn't change the fact that we had to start from way, way back. So if you could just simply start, if the kids of my generation, their parents were starting where I'm starting, or their grandparents were starting where I'm starting, then that means I'm 2 generations back. And so, it's like the realization, if you ever I've talked about this a lot, but when I was learning how to play saxophone and I finally got some lessons and I finally was like set up to like, actually improve to the point where I wanted to be, I had the realization that I'm I'm behind. So if I improve, let's say 5x, right? Well, the people I have to assume that the bare minimum, the people that are better than me are at least 5x better than me. So if I get 5x better, if all they need to do is just get one x better, just a little bit better, and that little bit's going to edge them out over me. And so I'll never be able to beat them if I don't surpass the level that I surpassed. So I got better, and then I acted like I was starting from zero, and then I got better again. And that was and so what I was able to do is skip, skip the process. Instead of waiting another year to get 5x better, I said I'm gonna start this year. I'm gonna do it. And it took a lot of work and a lot of practice. And that's what it takes for any person that's been able to overcome. But that is essentially what's happening. So many generations of black and brown people are set back so far. And so it's just like, yes, we're making progress. Yes, America is making progress, but it's not equal. It's not fair. It's not balanced, and it's not enough. We're still we're still debating voting. Think about that. We're still having discussions about voting. To me, everyone should be able to vote from their phone. Make it as easy as possible. People should get the day. I mean, if you're not going to do that and still insist upon, physical voting, there should be all kinds of innovations with mail-in voting. Give people the day off. Make it simple. Give them the option to just vote for the presidency if they don't want to vote anything. In fact, I don't think you have to check out all the boxes. I think you could just check the presidency off. But our voting system is just like, what is that? Do they really want everyone to participate? It doesn't feel like it. So I'm just, I'm just saying, it's like we're still talking about voting. Like every single state said there was no no theft, no cheating. Everything was above the board. And what did they do? They went right behind it and changed all the laws to make voting safer. What does that mean? If there was no issues, why do you need to make it safer? It makes no sense. And it's just like there's so many people coming up with all these excuses. And at the end of the day, this is it. I'm sorry. I gotta work on that. I am not sorry. This is the reality. At the end of the day, if all the people that you are making excuses for, you are defending, are a certain type of person, let's say racist. Let's just say racist. Then that's something you need to sit down and wrestle with. That's something you need to sit down and think about. Yes, sometimes there will be people who have certain beliefs that you don't agree with, but like, so for example, Tom Brady, Trumper. I don't know if he still is, but he voted for Trump. I'm not getting political advice from Tom Brady. I like him as a football player. I liked him more as a football player, but I still like him as a football player. So his political views, I don't that's okay. That's fine. I can live with his political views. But at a certain point, is everybody that I'm cheering for, like a not Thielen, Kirk Cousins, Beasley, all these guys, Djokovic, it's like that starts to kind of show your mentality. I don't know. Who knows anything? Progress is happening slowly, but we can do more. And we have to I think we need to start being honest with ourselves. I think one of the great benefits of of the pandemic is that it exposed all those little touchy subjects that we didn't want to really talk about. We got to talk about it now because it's all out in the open. People are saying things that they only used to say at their house. Not anymore. Not anymore. Everybody knows what's good. Everybody knows what people really mean and all this stuff. And so I think that's good. I think it's good. I think the messy process of change is necessary because just trying to do it and make sure it's clean. If the priority is making it clean, then you might not get all of what you need to get done. So anyway, thank you so much for stopping by my broadcast. The podcast will be up later today. And if you haven't already subscribed or followed, please be sure to do that today. Have a good one.